Animal walking through a dense jungle where the air feels heavy with mystery. The sound of chirping birds, buzzing insects, and rustling leaves fills your ears. Every snap of a twig makes your heart race, because you know this land was once home to the most feared and respected predator of the forest, the Bengal tiger. But something is wrong. Something is missing. The mighty roar that once echoed through Nepal's jungles has grown silent. Not too long ago, Nepal stood on the edge of losing its tigers forever. These magnificent cats, creatures that have ruled South Asia's forests for centuries, were disappearing at an alarming rate. It wasn't just about an animal vanishing, it was about losing a symbol of power, beauty, and balance in nature. Tigers are apex predators. Without them, entire ecosystems collapse. And yet, by the early 2000s, their numbers in Nepal had dropped so low that people feared the unthinkable, that one day, the tiger's roar would exist only in history books and fading memories. The decline didn't happen overnight. It was the result of years of deforestation, expanding farmland, illegal hunting, and a growing demand for tiger parts on the black market. Poachers targeted tigers for their skins, bones, and teeth, while shrinking forests left these big cats with nowhere safe to live. Every lost tiger wasn't just a statistic, it was a blow to Nepal's natural heritage and to the balance of life in its jungles. By 2010, Nepal faced a brutal truth: there were only about 121 tigers left in the entire country. Think about that number, 121 tigers in all of Nepal, a land once famous for its wild jungles. For many, this sounded like a death sentence for the species. The roar of the tiger was about to vanish forever from Nepal's forests. But then, something extraordinary happened. Instead of giving up, Nepal made a decision that shocked the world. The country chose to fight back. Not with more weapons, not with fear, but with unity, innovation, and determination. Leaders, scientists, park rangers, villagers, and even the army joined hands in a mission that seemed almost impossible: to bring the tiger back from the brink of extinction. This wasn't just about protecting an animal, it was about saving a part of Nepal's identity. Tigers are woven into the country's culture, its history, and its pride. Losing them would mean losing a living piece of what makes Nepal's wild heart beat. The fight to save the tiger became a fight for the soul of the nation. And guess what? Against all odds, Nepal succeeded. Today, the world looks at Nepal as a shining example of how even a small nation with limited resources can achieve something incredible. By refusing to give up, Nepal turned its darkest crisis into one of the greatest conservation success stories of our time. Back in the 1970s, Nepal's tiger population was thriving. The mighty Bengal tiger roamed freely through lush jungles, tall grasslands, and national parks like Chitwan, which had already become famous worldwide for its rich biodiversity. For locals and visitors alike, spotting a tiger in the wild wasn't rare, it was a breathtaking reminder of how powerful and alive Nepal's natural heritage was. Tigers were more than just animals, they were guardians of the forest, maintaining balance by controlling prey populations and ensuring that ecosystems thrived. But as the years passed, things began to change. Nepal, like many developing countries, was expanding. Roads were built, farmlands grew, and villages spread into what used to be wilderness. Forests that had stood for centuries were cut down, piece by piece, to make way for human progress. For tigers, this meant shrinking territory. And for an animal that needs vast stretches of land to hunt and survive, shrinking territory meant one thing: struggle. The danger didn't come from habitat loss alone. Illegal poaching became one of the deadliest threats to Nepal's tiger population. Tigers were hunted for their skins, bones, and even their whiskers, products that were sold in the black market, often smuggled across borders to feed demand in other countries. Poachers weren't just killing tigers, they were dismantling the very identity of Nepal's wilderness. Each tiger killed wasn't just one more animal lost, it was a piece of Nepal's cultural and natural pride disappearing forever. As the tiger population dropped, the silence in the forests grew louder. Imagine walking through a jungle that once echoed with roars, only to be met with nothing but emptiness. For scientists and conservationists, this was devastating. For villagers who had lived alongside tigers for generations, it felt like losing an ancient neighbor. The numbers told a grim story. By 2010, Nepal had only around 121 tigers left in the entire country. Think about that for a second, 121 tigers in a land of mountains, rivers, and jungles. That number was so small that the species' survival was hanging by a thread. It was a shocking wake-up call, not only to Nepal but to the entire world. Experts warned that if urgent action wasn't taken, the tiger could vanish from Nepal within a generation. But here's where Nepal's story takes a powerful turn. Instead of accepting defeat, the nation decided to rise together. This crisis became more than just about saving an endangered animal, it became about protecting the soul of the land, the culture, and the environment. In Nepalese tradition, the tiger symbolizes strength and courage. Losing it would mean losing a part of Nepal's identity itself. And so, something remarkable happened. Leaders, villagers, conservationists, and even soldiers came together with a shared mission: we will not let the roar fade. For the first time, everyone, from the government to ordinary citizens, joined forces to protect the tiger. This unity marked the beginning of a historic conservation movement, one that would eventually inspire the world. In 2010, something historic took place. Nepal, a relatively small nation with limited resources, made a bold commitment that shocked the world. Along with 12 other tiger range countries, Nepal signed up for the TX2 goal, an ambitious global pledge to double the tiger population by 2022, the next year of the tiger in the Chinese zodiac. For many, this sounded like a dream too big to achieve. Tigers were vanishing at an alarming rate across Asia, and even the most powerful countries were struggling to protect them. So how could Nepal, with its modest economy and vast conservation challenges, even think about such an impossible mission? But Nepal refused to listen to the doubters. Instead, it chose action. The government, conservation groups, and local communities came together to design a plan that was not only bold but also incredibly practical. The first step was tackling the most immediate threat: poaching. In the past, poachers could slip into the forests and kill tigers with relative ease. But Nepal decided to change the game. They introduced strict anti-poaching patrols, strengthened laws, and even deployed the Nepalese army inside national parks. Soldiers were stationed in places like Chitwan National Park and Bardia National Park, acting as round-the-clock guardians of the jungle. With boots on the ground, patrols became more frequent, and the message was clear: poachers would no longer have free rein. Technology also became a key weapon in this battle. Nepal invested in camera traps, hidden cameras set up in the forests that automatically took photos whenever an animal passed by. These cameras allowed scientists to track the movements, behavior, and even the identities of individual tigers by their unique stripe patterns. Suddenly, the invisible kings of the forest were no longer a mystery. Each tiger could be monitored, studied, and protected. This high-tech monitoring made it harder for poachers to hide and gave conservationists real-time data to plan strategies. But Nepal's leaders also understood something deeper. Protecting tigers wasn't just about catching poachers or guarding forests. It was about building trust and cooperation with the very people who lived closest to the jungle. After all, if local villagers saw tigers only as dangerous animals that threatened their livestock, they would have little reason to support conservation efforts. That's why Nepal launched community-based programs that transformed the way people interacted with wildlife. Instead of treating villagers as outsiders, Nepal invited them to be part of the solution. Locals were trained and employed as forest rangers, guides, and trackers. They were given real jobs protecting the same jungles that once posed risks to their livelihoods. On top of this, Nepal introduced compensation schemes for families who lost cattle or crops to tiger attacks, making sure no one was left to suffer financial losses alone. These programs built a sense of ownership and pride. Villagers who once might have turned a blind eye to poachers now stood firmly against them. They became the eyes and ears of the forest, reporting suspicious activity and protecting the animals that tourists from around the world came to see. This approach turned out to be the game changer. By involving people directly, Nepal transformed potential hunters into guardians of the forest. The tiger was no longer seen as an enemy but as a source of identity, pride, and even livelihood. What seemed impossible in 2010 was slowly turning into a reality, thanks to a combination of strict protection, cutting-edge technology, and the power of community. Here's the most inspiring part of Nepal's tiger story: it wasn't just the government, scientists, or foreign organizations who made the difference. The true heroes were the ordinary villagers, the people who lived right on the edges of tiger habitats. These communities had the most to lose and the most to gain, and their transformation changed the future of Nepal's tigers forever. For generations, people living near the forests saw tigers as a threat. And it's easy to understand why. A single tiger could wipe out several goats or cows in one night, leaving a family with nothing. In rare but tragic cases, tigers even attacked people who wandered too close to their territory. Imagine being a farmer who depends on 2 or 3 animals to feed your family, only to lose them overnight. For these families, the tiger wasn't a symbol of pride or strength, it was a source of fear. But then, Nepal introduced a clever and compassionate system. Whenever a villager lost livestock due to a tiger attack, the government or conservation groups would step in and provide financial compensation. This meant families didn't have to bear the burden of loss alone. Instead of anger and revenge, there was support and understanding. This one simple policy began to change how people felt about living alongside big cats. At the same time, Nepal tapped into something powerful: ecotourism. The country realized that the same tigers that once terrified villagers could actually bring prosperity. Tourists from around the globe were eager to see these rare and majestic animals in the wild. National parks like Chitwan and Bardia became hotspots for wildlife tourism. With more tourists came more opportunities: guiding, hospitality, transportation, handicrafts, and food services. Suddenly, locals had jobs and incomes directly connected to the survival of the tiger. The very animal they once feared became the reason for their community's growth. And something magical happened: the perspective shifted. Tigers were no longer seen as dangerous intruders, they became valuable neighbors. People began to take pride in living near tiger territory, knowing their village played a role in protecting such a magnificent creature. This pride was so strong that villagers even started reporting poachers to authorities. Some who once might have been tempted to hunt or sell tiger parts became the very people standing guard against outsiders who tried. Many communities now call themselves tiger guardians. Villagers patrol forests, protect habitats, and share stories with their children about why the tiger must be saved. In classrooms and community gatherings, the tiger is celebrated as part of Nepal's identity, not a threat to it. This cultural shift has been one of the most powerful weapons in Nepal's fight to save its big cats. What makes this so inspiring is that it proves a vital lesson: conservation isn't just about laws and science, it's about people. When local communities feel supported, respected, and included, they don't just accept conservation, they lead it. In Nepal, the villagers who once feared the tiger became the very reason it still roams the jungles today. The results? Absolutely stunning. What once seemed like an impossible dream slowly became a reality. By 2018, Nepal proudly announced that it had nearly doubled its tiger population, reaching 235 individuals. Conservationists around the world celebrated, but Nepal wasn't done yet. 4 years later, in 2022, the year of the tiger, the country shared even more incredible news: the tiger population had crossed 350. This wasn't just a victory, it was a world record. Nepal had become the first country on Earth to achieve the ambitious TX2 goal, to double its tiger population within a decade. Think about that for a moment. While many nations with far greater resources were still struggling to protect their wildlife, a small Himalayan country had pulled off the impossible. And they didn't do it by luck. They did it through determination, smart planning, and by making their people partners in conservation. Today, tigers in Nepal roam freely in protected areas like Chitwan National Park, Bardia National Park, Shuklaphanta Wildlife Reserve, and the Parsa Wildlife Reserve. These places have become living sanctuaries, where the jungle once again echoes with the roars of the big cats. For decades, the silence of empty forests haunted Nepal. Now, that silence has been broken by the return of the tiger's voice, stronger, louder, and prouder than it has been in generations. But the story doesn't end there. Nepal's success is more than just a national achievement. It's a message to the entire world. It proves that conservation is not about how rich or powerful a country is, it's about how committed and united its people are. If Nepal, with limited financial resources and countless challenges, can save its tigers, then truly, any nation can protect its wildlife. This achievement also highlights something bigger: saving tigers doesn't just benefit the tigers. Protecting tiger habitats means protecting entire ecosystems, forests, rivers, grasslands, and all the species that live within them. From elephants and rhinos to deer, birds, and even insects, countless forms of life have thrived because Nepal chose to safeguard its big cats. In other words, by saving the tiger, Nepal saved its forests. And by saving its forests, it protected its future. The world now looks at Nepal as a global leader in conservation. Its model, strict protection, community involvement, ecotourism, and international cooperation, is being studied and copied by other countries. What started as a desperate fight to stop extinction has turned into one of the most inspiring success stories of modern wildlife conservation. And yet, this is also a reminder that the fight is never over. Tigers still face threats from poaching, habitat loss, and climate change. Nepal's journey shows what's possible, but it also reminds us of the responsibility that comes with success: to keep working, keep protecting, and keep the roar alive. So, the next time you hear the mighty roar of a tiger, whether in Nepal's jungles or in your imagination, remember what it stands for. It's not just the voice of a predator. It's the sound of resilience, teamwork, and hope. Nepal has proven to the world that even the most endangered species can thrive again when humans choose protection over destruction. The lesson is clear: if Nepal can do it, so can the rest of the world.